Your PCI DSS level determines what controls you'll need to implement, the people that you'll have to talk to, and probably most importantly for you, how much you'd have to invest in order to get PCI DSS compliant. So in this video, we'll cover everything you need to know about PCI DSS levels, what the levels are and how to know which one you're in, how your compliance process changes depending on your PCI DSS level, and finally, how to get PCI DSS compliant. Let's start off with the basics. PCI DSS stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. The payment card industry in question is represented by 5 companies: Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, and JCB. PCI DSS breaks down into 2 categories: service providers and merchants. Service providers have pretty simple PCI DSS levels. 300,000 transactions and above, you're level 1. Below, you're level 2. For merchants though, there's 4 levels of PCI DSS based on the number of transactions you process, with level 1 being the highest tier and level 4 being the lowest. Each of the 5 card companies have their own definition of PCI DSS merchant levels, which may seem confusing at first. So for example, Visa's level 1 merchants do a different number of transactions to qualify for level 1 than Amex. But fret not, Visa, MasterCard, and Discover, for the most part, have the same criteria for PCI DSS levels. And Amex and JCB keep it simple too. If you've been determined as a specific level by another card guard, say you've been accepting Visa payments for a while, and Visa deems you a level 2 merchant, you will automatically be accepted as that level by Amex and JCB. That being said, keep in mind that everybody that processes transactions, even if that number is 1 or 100 million, everybody needs to be PCI DSS compliant. And if you're a small or medium business, you may assume you're not at risk because nobody would really target you. But here's the thing. Just because small business data breaches don't make the news, that doesn't mean they're not happening all the time. In a 2022 report from the BBC, it noted that small businesses are 3 times more likely to be attacked by cyber criminals compared to large businesses. And businesses with fewer than 100 employees are 350% more likely to face social engineering attacks than large companies. Smaller companies also just aren't as interested in compliance because they feel like getting PCI DSS compliance is either too expensive or too much of a hassle. But we'll get to that in a second. With all of this context set, let's dive into the 4 levels of PCI DSS compliance. Level 1 companies are those that process over 6 million card transactions in a year. Level 2 merchants are those that process between 1 million and 6 million payment card transactions. Level 3 merchants process between 20,000 and 1 million transactions in a year. And finally, level 4 businesses are those that process under 20,000 transactions in a year. Now, the number of payments isn't the sole determinator of what merchant level you qualify as. A card provider could, at its own discretion, mandate that you comply with level 1 standards even if you don't do 6 million plus transactions. These instances are rare, though they are more common for businesses that were recently hacked or faced a cybersecurity event. Now, how does the compliance process change as per your PCI DSS level? A company that does millions of transactions can't just rely on the basics, and a company that does only a handful of transactions shouldn't have to break the bank to be compliant. PCI agrees. And so PCI DSS levels have different requirements. The way you process cardholder data also affects the compliance process you follow, from the controls you implement to the kind of scanning you need and more. PCI DSS, the framework, has 6 control objectives that break down into 12 requirements and over 300 controls. There's a video in the top right corner if you want to learn more about that. There's 2 compliance requirements that are common across all 4 PCI DSS levels: an attestation of compliance, also known as an AOC, and a quarterly network vulnerability scan. An AOC is a document, like so, that does pretty much what the title says. It's a document that confirms or attests that you're in compliance with PCI DSS the way you need to be based on your level. There's 2 types of vulnerability scans. An external network vulnerability scan checks for vulnerabilities at the end of your network or website. An internal vulnerability scan looks for network vulnerabilities by scanning local resources within your network. Vulnerability scans are typically conducted by a PCI SSS ASB, which sounds like alphabet soup, but in fact stands for Payment Card Industry Security Standards Council approved security vendor. Those are the 2 common requirements, and now we can discuss the differences. Level 3 and 4 merchants can fill out an SAQ or self-assessment questionnaire, while level 1 merchants need to fill out an annual ROC or report on compliance. Level 2 merchants have to do both an SAQ and an ROC, though the ROC can be internally evaluated, while for level 1 merchants, that ROC has to be audited externally by a QSA, or a qualified security assessor. Now, let's discuss some of the terms that I just mentioned, starting with SAQ. A self-assessment questionnaire is a document filled with questions that PCI DSS has regarding your security. SAQs come in different shapes and sizes depending on how your organization processes and stores payments data, and can range from 20-some to over 300 questions. There's 8 kinds of SAQs, and these range from SAQs for merchants who fully outsource payments to SAQs for merchants that are only using hardware payment terminals. You can read more about SAQs in the blog that we've linked below. A report on compliance is a 500-page document that details a qualified security assessor's or QSA's opinion about your current security posture with respect to PCI DSS. The assessment is a summary of control objectives and requirements and is split across 4 results: in place, not applicable, not tested, and not in place. So, to summarize, level 1 merchants to 6 million transactions and over, they fill out an annual ROC validated by a QSA. Level 2 merchants do between 1 and 6 million transactions in a year. They do an internal ROC and fill out one of the 8 SAQs. Level 3 and level 4 only need SAQs, and everybody must have an attestation of compliance and a quarterly network scan. So, how do you go about getting PCI DSS compliant? Doing PCI DSS manually is a significant expense, both in terms of price and effort. In pure dollar cost alone, PCI DSS for a small or medium-sized organization could range between $5,000 to $20,000, while for slightly larger organizations, it could range from between $50,000 to $200,000. Sprinto helps companies become PCI DSS compliant by digitizing and automating the compliance process, allowing companies not just to get PCI DSS faster and more efficiently, but empowering them to stay compliant over the long run too. Companies just like yours that get PCI DSS compliant save up to 80% of their time, cost, and effort during the compliance process. Learn more by visiting sprinto.com or booking a demo with one of our PCI DSS experts from the link below. If you found this video useful, remember to like and subscribe, or better yet, share the video with somebody that you think might find it useful too. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. We'll get back to you as soon as possible.